A tournament that has been full of world-class talent, stealing the headlines. Qatar 2022 definitely had some brilliant players, but also a lot of stinkers in there. So without further ado, let's look into my top 10 World Cup flops. Number 10 for me is a man from an underperforming Germany side from the World Cup, Kai Havertz. And I know he got 2 goals against Costa Rica, but ultimately that meant nothing, and it was only as a substitute anyway, so he'd been dropped because of his first 2 awful performances in those 2 games against Spain and Japan. So I do think that he was one of the flops of the tournament, because a few years ago people genuinely believed this would be the tournament of Kai Havertz. Following up Kai Havertz is another German, and a player I expected a lot more from, Joshua Kimmich. And honestly, for the tournament I was confused when I saw German fans maybe complaining about him being the captain. They didn't think he was strong enough or a good enough leader, and I thought that was ludicrous. But now, after watching him play for Germany at the World Cup, I'm not sure he's quite as good as really I thought he was. He's meant to be one of the best midfielders in the world, but really didn't see that at all from him this tournament. Number 8 on my list is going to be a once world star, what should be one of the best British players of all time, Gareth Bale. At this World Cup, he just looked so off it. It was unreal, and for a whole country to have their hopes really on Bale, he was really poor. He only scored 1 penalty and didn't see much else from him at all the entire tournament. Next up is a player who definitely still has times to perform at other World Cups in the future, Matthias de Ligt. The Dutch centre-back, when he broke through at Ajax a few years ago and then went to Juventus, people thought this would be his tournament where he cements himself as one of the best centre-backs in the world at just such a young age still. But he really hasn't performed. At Juventus, he got sold, so he wasn't performing good enough, and now at Bayern Munich, we're still not seeing the best of de Ligt, and it's really worrying signs for him, as he couldn't even get in that Dutch side. So it really is troubling signs. A player who couldn't get in, and when he did get in, he didn't look that good either. Number 6 on my list may come as a shock to some, and I've gone for Kevin De Bruyne. One of the best players in the world, was also one of the flops of the World Cup. Now, you're going to have to hear me out on this, because objectively he probably wasn't one of the worst players, but for the sheer expectation you expect of a player of that level, he was really poor. Situations where he was picking the wrong passes or keeping the ball too long, stuff you don't usually expect from Kevin De Bruyne, just went slightly wrong for him this time out. Quick interruption before I get into the top 5 flops. Just a quick reminder to like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, because it really helps us out. Now we're into the top 5 players who are the biggest flops of the tournament, and I'm going back to Wales for this one. I'm going for Aaron Ramsey, because honestly, watching Wales play, he was probably the worst on the pitch every time. He didn't look like he could run, shoot, dribble, pass. He just didn't look switched on for it at all, and he just looked really poor. Definitely, for me, one of the worst players I watched at the tournament. Number 4 on my list, and the final one from Germany, is Nico Schlotterbeck of Borussia Dortmund. And for me, he looked like the weak link in a horrific German back line. He looked like the ball where, if you played the ball out wide over the top of him in that back three, he looked like the weakness for that German defence, and is where he was exploited. Specifically, you could see when Ito scored against them, he was the one who was exploited as the weaker centre-back, really. Into the top 3 now, and this might seem mental to some, because he did reach the World Cup final, yet he's still in this list somehow, and that's because it is Ousmane Dembele. Everyone saw his final performance. He only played 40 minutes, but was absolutely awful. And considering he was playing in such a good front line of Mbappe on fire, Dembele, who was coming into the tournament in good form, was expected to do big things, but just did not deliver whatsoever, and was really one of the worst players of the tournament, despite somehow starting for a team that reached the final. Now, this is probably a bold call. My second biggest flop of the World Cup is going to be none other than the man himself, Cristiano Ronaldo. And honestly, he was really poor. I think Portugal played so much better without him, which shows how poor he really was, and I feel like he had a negative impact on the dressing room as a whole, with his strops and stuff when he was benched, even though benching him worked when Gonzalo Ramos got a hat-trick. And I do think that what makes Ronaldo seem even worse is that this was meant to be him and Messi's final really big tournament for their countries, while Messi went to win the World Cup, while Ronaldo only got knocked out in the round of 16, not even starting every game. So that is why he's probably one of the biggest flops, because he pales in comparison to what Messi has done. Two players who are meant to have really good final tournaments. Alright, finally, my biggest flop of the entire World Cup is a man who only played one game, but that one game he stole all the headlines for completely wrong reasons. Coming into the tournament injured, Romelu Lukaku decided that he was going to be fit enough. They took him. They managed to get him fit in time for the third game of the tournament. He comes on against Croatia. A goal is needed to put them through instead of Croatia, but he misses five sitters, 5 massive chances that end up causing his country to be knocked out, and for that alone he has to be the big flop of the tournament. 5 really easy chances. My nan could have scored those chances. Both the goalkeeper and my real nan could have easily scored all those chances, and honestly Lukaku was just absolutely abysmal. Anyway, that is the end of this video, so tell me in the comments if you agree with any of those flops. Is there anyone else you think should have been in there? And if you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching.